This YouTuber has over $350,000 in a public stock portfolio, and today we're going to review his portfolio so that way he can one day become the next legendary investor. Now I know, $350,000 sounds like a lot of money, but there are already some pretty rich people out there. So the thing we have to ask ourselves is, did this $350,000 stock portfolio come to be because of contributions or investment gains? Because it can make a huge difference. The Investing Education YouTube channel is owned by this handsome man / rhino, Amar. Amar's been crushing it on YouTube, posting stock portfolio updates for 2 entirely different public stock portfolios, one on eToro and one on TD Ameritrade. So let's walk through his updates and see if we can figure out what his track record is. Except I'm going to mix things up a little bit, and that's because I'm going to walk you through the process of how I do what I do, and you're going to be the judge of how well you think these returns are calculated and communicated. So let's start by how I typically start. Every great portfolio update pretty much starts the same. In the bathroom, stuck in the scroll, when I come across the portfolio update, just like Investing Education's. What you typically want to do is start with the newest update first to figure out their returns. And because he's got 2 portfolios, we'll just pick one and go with it. So let's start with TD Ameritrade and go from there. After watching Amar's latest video, you'll see that we don't get a rate of return, nor do we get enough information for us to figure it out. But we do get some information. For example, we know that the ending balance is $359,441.88, and we also can probably guess that the ending date is July 2nd, 2021. It's not everything, but it's a good starting point. And by the way, the fact that we don't get all the information off the cuff isn't a terrible thing. It's easy to make mistakes. I mean, we're human after all, and it's easy to lose track of time. But that's not the end all be all. Instead, we just watch a couple more videos to see if we can get all the information. That's all we need, right? So then I ended up doing that, and I found out the worst has happened. So we find out that to calculate return, Amar uses this method where it's pretty common. You take profits and divide it by contributions. Now, we talked about why this is a terrible method to use in an earlier video, which is linked in the description. And in another video in our portfolio update series, where we found that even in positive years, using this type of return can make you think you're outperforming when you're not. But to save everybody some time and to keep things real simple, it means that we can't trust his returns. We have to do the math ourselves, and it's going to take his full transaction history for us to be able to do that. And that's when I realized things have gotten worse squared. Amar's been wicked kind with us and has provided monthly updates super consistently. The only problem is he gives us his transaction history, which is a great thing, but only for that month. Which means if we want to see the full transaction history of his entire length of having the portfolio, we have to watch all his YouTube videos, which I imagine is pretty good for his views, so maybe it's something I should be taking a lesson on. But anyway, what we have to do is watch all his videos, even the ones that don't include portfolio updates, because what if he misses something there but says it in another video? I've seen it happen countless times. So you have to watch everything, which is burdensome, but I think it's a great time to plug my favorite Chrome extension. No, I'm not talking about Honey, even though we have a referral link in the description. What I'm talking about is Video Speed Recorder, which allows you to watch videos faster than 2 times speed and is completely free. We'll also have a link to that in the description. This way you can take your YouTube binging game to the next level and go even further beyond. So then we watch all of Amar's videos, and even though he's been extraordinarily consistent with posting all his transaction histories, he's still human after all and missed a couple months worth of data, which means we cannot get his full transaction history by watching his YouTube videos. So, end of story, right? No way! We wouldn't have come this far just to let you down like that. I mean, we just binged 2 years worth of data. I reached out to Amar, and he was kind enough to fill in those gaps you're missing when you watch all his YouTube videos. Which means, just like with Quran, we were able to collaborate with Amar, and now we're able to deliver the results you want to see and figure out what his returns are. And you're not going to believe these results. But wait a minute, wasn't I just saying on one hand Amar has been unusually consistent, and then on another hand saying he's missing a month's worth of data? Which one is it, right? Well, here's what I mean. When I reached out to Amar to figure out his full transaction history, there was only one date that was missing from watching all the YouTube videos. That is exceptional. I'm blown away. I mean, I was fairly impressed before I reached out, but after seeing this, That's some good stuff. So now with the appropriate information in hand, I can for the first time reveal Amar's actual performance with his TD Ameritrade portfolio after 2 years of showing portfolio updates on YouTube. So here it goes. From January 1st, 2019 to July 2nd, 2021, Amar has made a pre-tax, annualized, 42.82%. But hold on, not so fast, because what did the benchmark do? Had he taken all his money invested into the S&P 500 with dividends reinvested, he would have made a pre-tax, annualized, 35.71%, which means Amar has outperformed the index by about 7% a year. That's phenomenal, man. And all the information you need to fact check our work, any of the sources we have, is linked in the description, so make sure to check that out and make sure I didn't make any math errors because I am human after all. But from what I can see, Amar is crushing it. I mean, hats off to the guy. Fun fact though, had we used all the information we found on the YouTube videos and not that one transaction history we were missing, our results would have been off by less than 1%. And I don't want people thinking that's always the case. Sometimes one transaction history can blow it way out of proportion. But for Amar, that was the case because of how consistent he was. It's phenomenal. But we still have some ways to go to help him improve how he calculates and communicates his returns and hopefully blow your minds in the process. So let's start with how Amar ends his videos, which is him setting up various benchmarks on Yahoo Finance to show you their performances versus his performance, which is very common practice. Unfortunately though, there are a couple things wrong with this method. First of all, just like we talked about in our previous video on how stock charts lie to us, we know that these Yahoo Finance charts don't include for dividends, nor do they include for dividends reinvested. To prove it, I set up the S&P 500 in the year 2020 on Yahoo Finance and found that Yahoo Finance was saying the performance was 16.26%. The only problem is when I cross-reference that with another website, like this one, we see that 16.26% is only the result of not including dividends, but 18.40% is the result of dividends and dividends reinvested. So I would not use these Yahoo Finance charts at all. Admittedly, this is a smaller detail, but it is important, and it does add up as you go further in time.
The bigger issue here is the concept and the application of using these kind of charts for performance. So here I drew you an example of the performance of the S&P 500 in 2020. And again, this percentage, the 16.26%, doesn't include for dividends reinvested. And I should tell you that the blue line is the S&P 500 and the purple is Ally. The only reason why Ally is on here is because in Yahoo Finance you need 2 charts in order to show these percentages, or that's the only way I know how to. So we just kind of have to ignore the purple, and I apologize for that. But let's just say you only had one contribution at the very beginning. And let's just say it made a 20% gain in 1 year's time. Well then, yes, you can compare your 20% to the 16.26%, or really the 18.40% with dividends reinvested, because they both start at the same time and end at the same time, right? The difference comes when you have contributions and withdrawals. You can't use these kind of charts. It gets very complicated. For example, if you put money in here and maybe some more money in here and maybe a little bit more here, then you don't want to use start point to end point percentages. Instead, what you want to do is say the S&P 500 could have done this much with this much money, this much with this much money, and this much with this much money, and then find the percentage from there. You can't use this point to point. It just doesn't make sense.
The next way Amar can bring his investing game to the next level is by providing more information on his cash drag, which is the opportunity cost of cash sat idle trying to time the market. For example, when the market crashed in 2020, Amar was able to swiftly deploy close to $20,000 and start investing that. Obviously, he had that $20,000 in different accounts, probably collecting dust, waiting for a time to collect the market. In his defense, it could have been some windfall like from Yada Savings or something, and it could have been really close to reality. But unless we get what I dubbed in previous videos as the full asset allocation, we really can't do a true opportunity cost analysis. What would have happened had he just taken the cash as soon as he got it and invested it into the S&P 500? We won't know. But wait a minute, speaking of the full asset allocation, what about his eToro portfolio? We never even dove into that. Well, I'm actually going to leave that for Amar to do. I hope that he takes everything we talked about in calculating and communicating returns and show that in his eToro portfolios. And I'm also going to leave you with something you could do. All of the returns I came up with are pre-tax. I did nothing after tax because I only asked Amar for the deposits and the withdrawals, which is enough for pre-tax. However, if you can get the full transaction history, I challenge you to come up with after-tax figures using your own tax considerations. And by the way, I did reach out to Amar and say, hey, have you thought about after-tax considerations? And this is what he had to say. He said, as a non-US citizen residing in Singapore, he actually doesn't pay tax on capital gains. The only time he is taxed is on dividends, and the broker immediately takes it out. So pretty much what you see is what you get. And on a completely unrelated note, it's about $2,000 for a last-minute flight ticket from Dulles to Singapore. Peace. So there you have another knockout performer on YouTube. Huge thank you to Amar for being able to put up with my meticulous fact-checking, as I can be a lot, I know. But it shows great merit that he wanted us to do this for him because he really wants to improve and do well for his audience. So I definitely think the next thing you need to do is subscribe to Investing Education, which is linked in the description, because he could just very well be the next legendary investor. But that's all I have for you in this video. As a bonus for making it to the very end, I'm going to leave you with a clip of a YouTuber making a very common mistake with calculating and communicating performances. So thank you, and until next time.
That's why you're going to be seeing some slight differences in between how much each index fund makes. Like Vanguard earned an annualized 13.95% return over 10 years, while Schwab made 13.9%.